Well, good evening and welcome to our special edition live stream broadcast. I will be your host, as well as Dr. Kymm Ballard, our Shape America president, and we will be featuring tonight our 2022 National Teachers of the Year. And Kymm, I got to tell you something. They found out not too long ago at Shape NOLA. And what does this mean to you now that we can get together with all five of them here in tonight's session?
What a special group they are, and with us hoping to really see and hear and think about our servant leadership. I'm understanding you got a good foot up on what some of that is, this group. So I'm looking forward to hearing some of those stories.
Well, I'll tell you what, Kymm, one of the great things and blessings of this broadcast in particular, one thing that I learned, one of the things that is actually consistent with your theme for 2022 moving forward, right, with the convention, actually in Seattle in 23, is going to be servant leadership. And I think tonight, everyone's going to get a chance to see five people in their journey and their story that have hearts, big hearts of servants. So it's going to be really excited to hear their stories as we go ahead and get started. So with that, what I'm going to do is, Kymm, let you introduce our distinguished Teachers of the Year. And let's start with the great state. Let's start with, how about we go to Minnesota and let's bring in Jen.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, Jen.
How's it going?
It's good. Jen Heebink here, and she is our Adapted Physical Education Teacher of the Year. Hi, Jen. Everything good?
Everything's good.
Good. Glad to have you here.
Yeah. So, Jen, why don't you tell us a little bit about what I found really fascinating is in your background, that when you got it started in teaching, you also were coaching, and you had a little bit of unconventional coaching, as you pointed out to me. So I want to tell everyone a little bit about that as we get a chance to know you.
Well, as far as coaching, so I coached all through college. It was kind of my side hustle. I played soccer, and the way that I got my job at Buffalo was I actually started in the boys program. And that was something that was actually kind of mind-blowing to me because I had never seen a woman coach in the boys high school program. And I thought it was kind of weird, but the athletic director kind of just said, I believe you can do this. And I asked my college coach, do you think I can do this? And he was like, you can do it, So it was one of my favorite years. And then I switched over to the girls program for a while until I had kids.
Very cool. And obviously, Jen, you're from the great state of Minnesota in MnShape and certainly Central District. All right. Kymm, why don't you introduce our next Teacher of the Year from, again, Minnesota. And that's going to be Jessica Matheson. Kymm, I think you're muted.
Thank you. Yeah, Jessica.
There we go.
Thank you, Jessica Matheson. It's not on here unless somebody's, muted, right? You're our National Health Education Teacher of the Year, so we're really excited about that.
Yes.
So, Jessica, you have to share with us, because your undergrad, the way you went about it was nothing conventional whatsoever. So why don't you tell us about how you decided to study abroad?
Yeah. So the most conventional, I had to start in Minnesota. State law is 10 weeks. So I did my 10 weeks. And right after, I went to Australia to student teach. So I had the opportunity to teach there. I was a student at one of their universities. We were unfortunately there over a week-long holiday as well. So I went to New Zealand. So I got to experience other parts of the country, other sports, other cultures. It was amazing.
Absolutely. And I got to tell you what, just check out our next Teacher of the Year, because they might have a similar story to yours. And here we go. Kymm, let's bring up our next one. And
yes,
here we go.
Welcome Rebecca Lambdin-Abraham. Oh. She is our Elementary Physical Education Teacher of the Year. She goes by Becca, if you hear us say that. So welcome, Becca.
Hi, thanks. I'm so excited to be here.
And Becca, you just heard from Jessica's story, and I heard you have a similar one. Why don't you share with us why you decided to study abroad?
Yeah, so I I did my student teaching in Texas, but my program at University of Texas did our student teaching in the fall, and I had a couple credits left before I graduated. And so I didn't want to stay on campus when all my friends graduated in December. And I took an opportunity to study abroad at the University of Sydney and got to take some classes with PE majors there, which was really interesting to see how PE was different. So I got to spend my last semester of college abroad and then graduate over Skype at 3 a.m. in Australia to watch my computer walk across the stage with my cords draped across it. So it was unique.
Very, very, very cool. And hey, all I'm going to say right now is just keep the love pouring in. Love all the comments. Love all the shout outs. And Kymm, now we're going to switch gears. Now we're going to be going to the middle school. And I have a slight bias with this next one, only because he comes from the Show Me State. And that could only be one person. And I'll let you introduce him.
Yes, welcome. Yeah, thanks for being here. So Paulo, Ribeiro, thank you for being here for our middle school PE teacher of the year. And what state did you say that was from? Guy, I didn't catch that.
Missouri. Yeah, okay, you didn't catch that. Of course not. So I have a very interesting story, and I just have a really cool shout out, and that is this. Paulo actually came from Brazil, and he'll tell you a little bit when we get those questions going, a little bit about that story. But what I want to tell you in particular, when he came over on a soccer scholarship at Missouri Baptist University, the same school that I teach at, I want you to hear about his freshman year, what he had to do for 6 months to attend classes. So, Paulo, why don't you tell us what your life was like? You get offered the scholarship to play soccer at MBU, but tell us what you had to do for 6 months.
Yeah, so arriving in the country, actually, I found out in the airport that, I was not leaving the dorms. So I was living in an apartment complex. It was like 7 miles away from pretty much like the college. So pretty much I had to walk actually for 2 hours to go to college on a daily basis. I kind of did that for about 3 months. And also I was able to afford a bicycle afterwards. I had my first 6 months, I pretty much had 3 jobs. And then one of the jobs actually I kept for my first 4 years. So I started working from 2:30 to 11 p.m. every single day. So that's kind of how I made through college, my first 4 years. And then when I bought the bicycle, I was able actually to, cut the trip a little bit shorter for about an hour, But I'm going to save a little bit more about the story for later as well. But that's pretty much, the whole summary of the whole thing. I only appreciate actually the opportunity.
Talk about commitment, resiliency, perseverance. Wow, that's one of the coolest things that I learned about him just last month. So Kymm, it's time to introduce our last and certainly not least teacher of the year as we go to the high schools. And let's bring in now from the great state of New York.
Hi, yeah, let's welcome Charlie Rizzuto. Hey, welcome our high school physical education teacher of the year.
Charlie's muted. Go ahead, Charlie.
You there?
I'm here.
Okay, there we go. Now we can hear you.
Oh, okay.
All right. So Charlie, why don't you, I had a chance to talk to you, and you really had an interesting spin on things, and you talked about the importance of people. And why don't you kind of, again, your heart for people and how it has guided your career. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So, I mean, that could take us in a million different directions that we'll probably touch upon later. But I think even before I found or realized that I wanted to be a physical education teacher, it was really my why, which I think I'm going to unpack later on in the episode, that kind of amplified how people drive us and people fuel us, and the connections that we make with the people around us help to shape us into the people that we are. And as teachers, we kind of make those connections with our students, right? So our students, as Joey Fight at the PE Institute a few years ago said during one of his keynotes, they're our North Star, right? So as teachers, the connections that we make with our students drive us to try and become the teachers that we want to become to help to serve them best.
Absolutely. And I think that ties into absolutely, Kymm, you got to comment on it because it
I
plays
mean,
right into your servant leadership. So once
talk
you
about
give,
leadership. Yeah.
yeah,
No, it's not about power. It's like I keep saying, leadership is about, giving to others and sharing with others and lifting others up. And, that's what every one of these folks have just talked about. And what great examples, for those people listening on how to provide that to their students. Thank you guys.
absolutely. So Kymm, why don't you kick us off with the first question and you can address this again, back to the Minnesota connection.
Yeah. So first of all, Jen, why did you decide to become a adapted physical education teacher?
Yeah, so initially, I feel like my family history it's all about being a teacher. Like my blood is being a teacher. My great grandmother taught in a one-room schoolhouse. My grandpa started the graphic design stuff at Columbia Heights High School. And so I always kind of felt like I knew I was going to be a teacher. And then when I went through Phi Ed just in elementary and middle school, I had teachers that did really good things and some that weren't so great. But the things that I always remember from elementary and middle school PE was just being sucked into the game so much so that you lose track of time. So those were my favorite things. But then when I got into college, adaptive PE wasn't going to be part of my major and some things kind of fell apart. And so I added on the adapted PE minor, and Sutar, who's in the house tonight, I volunteered at one of her Kids on Two Wheels bike camps. And I remember there was this one student or one kiddo who had so much anxiety about just riding a bike. And these kids, I would watch them go from not being able to ride a bike to riding a bike with two wheels without training wheels by the end of the week, just 1 week. And there's this one kiddo I just remember, and Sue told me this comment as I was working with this student, this kiddo, that I had the perfect amount of empathy, but also the perfect amount of push and motivation to help her through. And like, that was it, like hooked. And so adapted PE from then on, I knew that was going to be a part of my future because of some of those things that had led up to that moment. So
it sounds like that was that Sutar was a real blessing in your life at that point. Like that was what you needed, was somebody to kind of show you or help introduce some things to you so you could find your why, right?
Yep. And I get to work with her all the time. And so like it was back then, but it's also just constant. And like the Minnesota DAPE leadership team, like it's just been a blessing to have her in my life completely. So
I have a university professor like that. So they're so important to our lives. So great job.
All right. So same question. We'll address this one, keeping that Minnesota connection. Let's go ahead and bring on Jessica to answer that.
Yeah, so I actually had intended on going to school to become an athletic trainer. And after one semester, I'm not really into memorizing science stuff. So that didn't fare well with me. And after that, I just kind of thought, and my parents were both business at the same school I went to. And I'm like, well, I don't want to do that, although they really pushed me to do it. And I thought back to one of my favorite teachers growing up, and my high school cross country and track and field coach, Jean Reimer Morgan. And I was like, I'm going to do what she's been telling me to do all the way along. I'm going to be a health and PE teacher. And so I really just kind of chose that based on her being a positive role model in my life. And I'm fortunate to have worked with her for 6 years after as well. And I totally base everything off of things that she's taught me, and I just try to be like her.
That's awesome.
So Kymm, let's go ahead. Yeah, that's really awesome.
Like having those people to be like, again, sharing that same kind of a message that we had. So Becca, we all know, or I hope most people know, your famous mom has been involved for a long time. And, with as far back as AFERD and NASP and now Shape America. So I kind of get a little bit maybe about where some of this comes from. But other than that, can you give us a little bit more about why you decided to become a physical education teacher?
Well, you hit it right on the head, and my mom is a big factor in that. Not just because she has been in this organization for a long time and in leadership, but that she was my elementary PE teacher.
Oh,
And
neat.
I had a wonderful experience having her as a PE teacher that I didn't really realize until I got out of elementary PE. And when I went on to middle school and found out that not everyone had PE like I did, not everyone felt supported to learn, to love, to move, and just find their passion in how they like to do that.
Mhm.
And I said, wow, this is what I need to do. I need to make sure that more kids feel supported from the foundational levels. And
Yeah.
so from then on and re-solidified it different ways. And I had an amazing middle school PE teacher as well, but it kept showing me that not everyone had the same experiences that I had and that everyone deserved it. And so I knew that I was going to be an elementary PE teacher. That was my goal.
Yeah, that's awesome. The reason I was saying it in that way is because your mom is an incredible legend, as I saw your husband type in. But you are the same. I mean, you are your own person. She didn't do it to you, make you there. You've done this on your own. You are teacher of the year because of you. So don't let anybody tell you any different. Okay. Who's up next?
Paulo. So, Paulo, why don't you go ahead and take the question? Why did you decide to become a physical education teacher?
Sure. So growing up in Brazil, sports have always been part of my life, in particular soccer. Also going to school, one of my favorite classes was PE classes, because I was able to socialize with my peers and also to play sports. When I was 16 years of age back in Brazil, my PE teacher actually asked me to volunteer for like a soccer camp that they had like for little kids. So after that, actually, that kind of sparked the idea and also the desire to work with sports and also with children. So when I moved to St. Louis in 2004 to attend Missouri Baptist University, I kind of already knew that, one of my goals was to become a HPE teacher. So throughout college, I had wonderful professors, people that really helped me a lot. So also in college, I had experience, through my student teaching to meet a lot of people as well. And that's pretty much when I knew that, HPE would be my profession.
Wow, that's really cool to hear that. And Paulo, like I said, it's just really amazing all the things that you're doing in Missouri as well as around the country as well, your story. And so with that, Kymm, to round up the this first question, let's head to New York.
Yeah, Charlie, talk to us a little bit about your decision and a little bit more about your why.
Yeah, so that's a perfect lead-in, Kymm. So I feel like even from graduating high school, I always had my why, right? So I talk to my students even now about how I definitely didn't have the worst childhood, but I also didn't have the best. And I always knew my why was to, in some way, positively impact the trajectory of a kid's life or of kids' lives. I just didn't know what my what was going to be, right? So I had an English teacher when I was in high school that inspired me in a lot of ways. And I always thought that teaching would be where I would go. I just didn't know what I was going to teach and how I was going to fulfill my why or live my why. And her name was Mrs. Dietrich. And she helped me to like fall in love with literature and fall in love with writing and fall in love with being creative and thinking outside of the box. So I went to college originally to be an English teacher. But I quickly realized that that wasn't how I wanted to live my why. And upon further like thought and investigation and reflection, I thought guidance and being a guidance counselor was going to be my platform to live my why. And I actually finished my undergraduate degree with a degree in human services, which was geared towards counseling. And again, the more I thought about it and the more I learned about guidance and transcripts and paperwork and scheduling and all of that stuff, I didn't feel like it optimized my why, although I felt like I was closer. And then I took a step back and I started to think about the holistic development of a child and the holistic impact that a teacher can have and where can you optimize that impact. And then it was pretty obvious, right? And that it was in physical education and health education. So like sport was always something that I loved. I was a high school athlete. I was a college athlete. A lot of coaches influenced me in a positive way. But sport wasn't the driving force behind me becoming a physical education teacher, honestly, nor was activity, although both of those things are really, really important. It was having an impact on the holistic development of a kid's life and trying to impact the trajectory of their life in a positive way. And I feel like physical education is the perfect platform to live my why from.
That's a very impactful, why, Charlie, that you have. And I like really how you've unpacked the foundation of the WISC model, the whole school, whole community, whole child, and just recognizing that, so early in your career and all that you're doing. I know I'm looking forward to a few more questions with you. So with that, let's move on to question number 2. And this is a question I love asking all of you, especially being in the media side of things. And we'll start back in Minnesota, except this time, Jessica, you're going to answer the question. What was your reaction when you were initially named the district teacher of the year? Then, as you know, you would then go into being the up for the national teacher of the year. And want to get your reaction to when you were at Shape NOLA and your name was announced right there, then and there, to be the health education teacher of the year. So with that, Jessica.
Okay, so let's start with district. I'm going to pull out my phone here. Wednesday, December 15th, 10:19 a.m. Jen Heebink. Did you get an email today? Top secret. I think it's still top secret, but one central district for adapted PE. God is good. 10:20. OMG, OMG, OMG. This is me. Congratulations. Guess what? Question mark, exclamation point, question mark, exclamation point. Me too, exclamation point, exclamation point. Thank you for telling me, exclamation point, exclamation point, exclamation point. 10:21. Jen Heebink, stop, exclamation point, exclamation point, exclamation point, exclamation point. 10:21. OMG, that was me. 10:21. Jen Heebink, congrats, exclamation point, exclamation point, exclamation point, exclamation point. That's amazing, exclamation point, exclamation point, exclamation point. Me, Bitmoji, don't panic. 10:21. Jen Heebink, yeah. That's 2 minutes. Okay, I hope my principal is not watching. I was in class. My students were looking at me and they're like, Ms. Matheson, are you okay? And I'm like, yeah, but I can't tell you yet. Just wait. I can't tell you yet.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh. I can't believe that. But we got the text to prove it.
That might be one of the best stories I've heard.
Oh my gosh.
So there's my 2 minutes of how I found out. Thank you, Jen Heebink, for letting me know to check my email in the middle of the day. And then, national, I'm going to be honest. If anyone talked to me at Shape NOLA, I was a wreck all week. And I'm doing it now. My Bitmoji has my bun in it. So should I be wearing my bun all week because that's what my Bitmoji on my Twitter is? So then people know who I am. And oh my gosh, like, are people watching me eat? Like, what if they're watching me eat? Like, has the decision been made yet? What if I say something? Oh my gosh. Friday, I couldn't eat. I had so much anxiety. But I think that says something about, Mike is a fantastic teacher. He's Eastern District Health Teacher of the Year. Like I was nervous because he's a fantastic teacher too. He was well deserving as well. So then when I'm sitting there and I've told Jen this, they announced Jen first, and I'm like, they're not going to make 2 Minnesota people, are they? So then I'm like, it's not me because Jen won. And I was super excited for Jen. And then when they said my name, I was like, oh my gosh.
That's awesome.
There's me.
Yeah. And then there's the wait, Bob says. You're right.
Exactly.
Yes.
Then for the way. Now, speaking of the fact that Bob just chimed in, let's segue now over to Becca. Becca, let's ask you the same question. I'm just actually not going to solo. only because, Jessica, you knocked it out of the park. Great answer. I think we all want to see each other's reaction to this one. So, Becca, what was your initial reaction on the district of the year? And then obviously when you're waiting those 3 hours, right, on that Friday, waiting for the national teacher of the year announcement.
So I did not have the friend telling me to check my email. So I did not see the email before it came out live. I found out because I had a Twitter notification that came up at the end of class on my watch. And I said, hey, why am I mentioned on Twitter right now from Shape America? What's this about? Like, I had no idea we were getting close to them being announced. It was total surprise. And so then that class left to go to lunch, and I was just kind of bouncing around the gym. And then I ran through the hallways, not running because we're not allowed to run in the hallway, but and it was kind of unreal, for sure, that day, finding out about district. Like, I don't know how many minutes, but I spent most of my lunch period that day just kind of walking around and seeing people. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's really true. Like, this happened. Like, I didn't think this was really gonna go forward. And so then that was December, like you said, and we get to Shape NOLA, and it's like we get to finally celebrate this together. I mean, Southern District wasn't together between December and that, and my Tayford convention had happened before this happened in December. And so this was my first time to be around my big PE family and get to celebrate district. And so I spent the week getting to know my new family of the elementary PE toys and getting to just say, this is the week that we get to finally celebrate that district toy win. So I'm happy with that. And then the 3-hour general session of sitting there and waiting and waiting and waiting, and then saying they're just gonna skip us. We're just like, forget that part. We've already heard these amazing keynoters. And literally when they were, okay, it was going to have to be elementary toy next. Kyle's up on the stage there, and I am saying the names of all of my peers because I know it's going to be them. And I have to make sure that I give them the right high five and whatnot while they go up. And then my name is the one that goes up there. And it was shocking and honoring. And again, I am so happy to be a part of the 2022 district toys and to have that team and that family and get to be a part of the toy family. It's just so exciting.
And you all do become a family. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I just want to say this, Becca, I said this to you earlier this week, that of all the social media I've done in this profession, which is a lot, as everyone knows and everyone watching, but I put it in my Hall of Fame top 10 photos I've ever taken was your husband. As you were walking up on stage, you get on stage, I'm filming stuff in between. I see him, his eyes are total water, just this amazing moment. He's got his camera up as high as he can, above his head. And I turned because he's right next to me. I snapped the photo. I posted it up there. One of the absolute coolest moments that a family, and I was saying he wasn't crying. Okay, whatever. Okay, whatever. Guess what? Tomorrow morning, stay tuned. I will be posting it, and you all can see for yourselves. And I'll even do a close-up. Yeah, Kymm was there. Yeah, and we all know. So
I was going to say, we all saw you, Bob. Stop.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. All right.
Hey,
so
Bob, if you weren't crying, then I wasn't crying.
Right.
All right. With that, let's now move to Missouri and with Paulo. And Paulo, again, same question. What was your initial reaction to being named District Teacher of the Year? And also then subsequently waiting, again, those 3 hours on the Friday, getting the National Teacher of the Year announcement at Shape NOLA.
Yeah, I would say that I was happy, excited. I don't think that I was excited as Jessica, actually, but I was very, very excited. Honor, humble. I think that for Central District, I found out like through an email. I think that's what I found out, the way I found out. And then for National, we were all together there in the convention, so it was just kind of great feeling. I mean, receiving any award, for any profession, for something that you're doing good, it's already a great feeling. It's a victory, but being recognized, as a National Teacher of the Year is just a different ball game. especially under my own personal circumstances, that I started sharing with you all before, So when I arrived here in 2004, I could barely speak any English. I'm still learning English, to be honest with you. So I got in the airport, and then two people just say, okay, you're moving to, the apartment. So I have to find a way to go to classes, to go to college, also, play my sport and things like that. So those are 2 hours that I got to walk, 2 hours I got to walk back, So my first 6 months, I had 3 jobs, 2 jobs on the weekend and 1 job, throughout the week. So I had to learn, a new language. I had to adapt to a new culture. And also, to a different education system, because the education system here is very different than one we have in Brazil. And the good thing about all this is that, a lot of our students that we see on a daily basis, we might not think about that, but they're facing the same challenge that I faced back in 2004. So it's a teachable moment for me as well. So, for example, when I tell my story to my students actually in class, I don't tell actually to make them feel sorry for me. I tell actually to help them to connect actually with my life experience, So it's great for me to tell my personal stories to them, because when I'm talking about resilience, perseverance, empathy, goal setting, they can really relate to me, So I want my students to understand that the barriers and the challenges that I have faced, throughout my life and also here as a physical educator, helps them to motivate, to set goals for themselves, So my personal goal actually is help my students actually not only to be physically active, also, but to become good citizens, people that are really going to make a difference, not just now in middle school, but through high school and through the rest of their lives. So just to summarize, it was a great feeling to become the National Teacher of the Year. It's an honor. And also, I cannot forget the other 2 people, Stephanie and Amanda too. They're amazing. And it's so hard to, I'm not sure about you, but I felt kind of bad at the same time because, they're right by you and they're announcing just one person after you connect with these people for the whole week. So it's kind of like, it's that bittersweet, I would say. It's like Kymm said earlier too, like we're kind of like a family, and that's how I see about, Shape America and connect with a lot of you. So, I just have to appreciate. So, thank you.
Wow. So with that, let's now go back to New York and let's bring on Charlie. And Charlie, what was your reaction again? How did you find out when you were named the District Teacher of the Year? And then, of course, the 3-hour wait on that Friday during Shape NOLA as they then announced your name as the National High School Teacher, Physical Education Teacher of the Year.
Yeah, so I don't know if anybody has a story like Jess's, but I also found out during class. I was taking attendance, and on my Chromebook, I have my email open and my attendance window open, just in case some emergency correspondence comes through email, something that we all need to know. If I hear the bing, I could just click it really quick, look, nothing, and then I move on. And then I saw the title of the email, right? So right there, then and there, you kind of knew. And it was a blend of emotions. Obviously, I was surprised. I was happy. I was excited. I was surprised. But then, like, I'm about to start a class, right? So all of that had to kind of be pushed to the side and then go do the job that kind of earned you this recognition, right? And then, when colleagues found out and just seeing how happy they were and how excited they were, and, you deserve it. And everybody in New York State, just again, back to the people piece that you mentioned at the beginning, right, Guy? Like,
yeah,
just feeling the love from the people in New York State, and then just the connections that I've made through the course of my career across the country, right? The text messages from people in California, and just everybody saying congratulations as they found out. You get down to New Orleans, like everybody mentioned, you meet your toy team, you meet your group, and you make connections and you form friendships, and really, like, it to me, it's not an award, it's just a layer of recognition, right? Shape America, different organizations do a really good job of recognizing people who do a good job, and you form these friendships, and then you're sitting there at the convention and you're listening to all these great keynotes. And I'm sure I could speak for everybody. As you're listening to the messages in the keynotes, you're making connections to your own teaching, things you want to do, things you've done, maybe steps that you've missed that you wish you could do over again. And then they get to the awards. And through the 3-hour wait, I've been in a lot of group chats, right, leading up to NOLA and just people in New York and just all different people. And obviously I don't have my phone out, and all these people in the group chats probably know I don't have my phone out, but all my text messages are going to my watch. So I'm constantly getting texts in these group chats. Did they announce yet? Did Charlie win yet? What's going on? I don't see it on social media. And it's just kind of raising my anxiety levels a little bit because I'm not going to respond. But at the same time, again, back to what Guy said before, like I'm sitting there and I'm crying, winning, not winning, whatever. But you feel the love from all these people that just want to support you and are just waiting to know with you. And that was really, really, really cool. And then when they announced my name, similar to Becca, I was expecting to hear any other name but mine, right? And then it's a surprise. And the coolest part was like every other layer of recognition that all of us got, or I think, I don't know for sure, but when we went to the award ceremony or the dinner, we already knew, right? At this one, we didn't know, right? So when my kids and my wife came with me to New York, we all already knew it was your moment, right? But to like turn around and have my kids walk over to me and my wife walk over to me, and then I turn around to go on stage and there's Clancy Seymour with his camera and he's FaceTiming people up in New York State, and the people in New York State sitting there and everybody just kind of cheering for you again. It was all about like the people in that moment, and just feeling the love. And then FaceTiming with Colleen Corsi once I sat down from New York State, because that's who Clancy was on the phone with. It was just really, really cool to just feel all of that throughout the whole process. So that was the biggest piece.
You know, Guy, I can almost picture every one of their stories. You know, they're such good, they described them all so well. Becca, I'm going to start with you on this one, and it'll be the same for everyone. What have you learned about yourself and the physical education, health education, adapted profession since you've been named, if any? You might be muted. I can't hear you.
I think that one of the things that has been brought to the surface is just a reminder of that I just try to do the best that I can. I found in my national board certification process that people said this is the best professional development that you'll ever do. It's so true, because it's just about you and it's you becoming a better teacher. And so that's really where my focus is and my strive is. And receiving this recognition makes me look back and reflect and say, well, what about me is so special? And so I heard all the stories of my toy class and said like, wow, I mean, that's amazing. And that's amazing. And I think that the message that I love in this recognition process and in my self-reflection process is that our profession is amazing. There are incredible people out there, and so many people should be held up and recognized, and we just need to do a great job of sharing with each other the amazing things that we each do, because I don't feel like I do that many more amazing things than anybody else to get this recognition. I really appreciate it. But I think that there are awesome teachers out there, and I appreciate every one of them too.
Awesome. Let's see. Jessica, can you share a little bit with us?
Yeah, so I think my thing is that I've learned about myself is I deal with the negative first. This is a public apology for those who have wished me congratulations through email and through text message. I have not responded yet because I've been dealing with the end of the school year, everything that I've been dealing with, kind of the things that I kind of just want to get off my back first. And I need to start to appreciate, those around me. So public apology, emails are going to be coming. And I think that's kind of one of my things is that I get a little embarrassed when talking about, I still can't believe this title is mine, for this year. I look at those who came before me, and I can't believe my name is amongst them. And part of it's like, I don't even know how to respond. Thank you. I just think I'm an average teacher, and I just care a lot and work really hard. And so I think that's one of the things that I've learned about myself, is that I do need to appreciate what I've done, and I need to give myself some credit as well.
That's a great thing to learn about yourself and to find out. Paulo.
So I would say that, like, personally, like for me, this award actually put like a spotlight in my work. I mean, not only here in St. Louis, also in the state of Missouri, or even nationally, but also in my small city back home in Brazil. Today there is more people that kind of look up to me, and also that I think it's just a great opportunity, actually, to inspire not only educators on our own field here in the States, but also overseas, but also, students, showing them that everything is possible when you set goals, put effort, dedication, and show consistency. Professionally speaking, as the National Teacher of the Year, we all serve as ambassadors of this profession, So for myself personally, actually, one of my goals actually is to share, instructional practice that I'm doing in my classroom, also programs that I have used to increase actually student achievement and the passion for PE as well, and to bring a spotlight to current issues that we have, challenge that we have inside of our schools that, our administrators and also lawmakers should know as well, not just in a local, but in a state and also in a national level as well.
You're going to be an amazing advocate for us. Charlie.
Yeah, so I'm gonna kind of go about this question. It's a two-part question, so I'm gonna go about it in two different ways. I think I learned a ton about myself through the process. I think there's things I've learned about myself after being named, but the process of, Eastern District, and then obviously at the national level, everything that we had to do along the way, and just how reflective that we had to be on our teaching, really brought a lot of things to light for me, right? So the things that I think that I've done really, really well, the things that I did really, really well, and for whatever reason maybe got away from because I was trying to implement new things and I needed to bring those things back into the forefront of my teaching. Maybe some gaps that I identified in some of the things that I was trying to do in my teaching. I think the process was rigorous. It was stressful at times, as everybody could probably attest to, but I really do feel like it made me a better teacher. And then just to echo Becca's point a little bit, since being named, I think the focus is more on what I've learned and continue to learn about our profession, right? So, Jess mentioned all the people that have reached out. I think we could all say a big apology to some people we maybe didn't get back to yet. But the depth of conversation from the moment that I won, right? You see people that you don't see all that often, right? Like Mark and Becky Fulmer, I got to see them on the way out. I don't see them all the time. And again, the people, right? How happy they were for me. But then even that night, right? You're bumping into people on the sidewalk, right? Just walking around New Orleans and having conversations about our profession after the quick congratulations for a half an hour, 40 minutes with whoever it may have been, right? And I feel like I've always known, right? I've always known in my heart that we teach the two most transferable disciplines, right? We teach the two most important disciplines a student can ever be exposed to throughout their entire educational careers. And I've always known that we've had great people at the forefront to advocate for our profession. But that night, the amount of people that I bumped into and the depth of conversation that I had in all of these different places at restaurants just kind of solidified that.
Yeah. I see Lisa's statement there. I so agree with you. So Jen, let's finish it up with you.
Yeah, so I'm going to go two ways on this. The first thing I really learned about myself, I know some of us on Twitter will choose the one word of the year for ourselves, is like, what are we going to pay attention to? What are we going to learn? Last year, my one word was authenticity, and going through the process of that was really, really interesting because my past when it comes to like being the captain of a soccer team. And in high school, trying to do my best, but then feeling like I've gotten there, but then like failing in some way, in some kind of leadership. I know we've all probably felt like we've failed in leadership before. I feel like this was a lesson for me in anchoring down between ego and pride, because for me, this might be unpacked later, but I struggle a little bit with anxiety and depression sometimes. But what I've found is that when things happen in my life, I either flow towards pride in what I hope to do, or flow back towards ego and what I've done in the past. And so one of the things I learned last year was just being authentic and being in myself has really helped me stay between those two when things come my way. And so this year, learning that authenticity, and my one word for this year was anchor. And so being anchored in my authenticity of myself between the two things has really done a lot in helping me understand when hard things come my way, how do I cope? And so going about the whole process this year of the Teacher of the Year process, the application, how I answer the virtual interview questions, how I'm hanging out with these amazing adapted PE teachers, being myself, especially with someone who struggles with anxiety, is something that I really, really learn. And when I anchor in myself, I can kind of see clearer the way that we're supposed to do things. I don't know. That's me. Maybe it's not for you, but that's kind of something that I learned, is when you anchor in being your authentic self, things seem to be more clear, and at least in my brain, less of a fog, I guess. But as far as the HPE profession, I would say that just, I guess, those people like some of you have said that have gone before us, thinking about who in the past has been a National Teacher of the Year, and now I get to be that too. Like, wow. And I really think that my platform, recognizing that the need for inclusion is so huge, and people with and without disabilities can meet in a physical education setting. And I think the world's ready for that. Like, I think it's time for that voice to be heard. And we're going to see a lot of unified popping up. And I'm so excited to help people with that and make an impact. So I think that's kind of where I'm going with that question, is just learning how to be myself in the hard times, and helping other people with inclusion, and finding kids be themselves.
It's so awesome to see you guys learning so much as you're moving forward with this too. I think, Jen, we need to go back and catch up a question with you. What was your reaction when you were named District Teacher of the Year and then National?
Yeah, so as I'm moving out of my first hour class, my first hour unified middle school class, I'm kind of disheveled, pushing my clanky cart into the girls' locker room, and I see the email, and I click it, and I'm like, oh my gosh. And I'm like pushing the cart and like dancing, and like no one's around me. There's no children. And I push my cart in, and I text Jess, like, did you get an email? And then you all saw what happened with that. But like realizing, like, 2020, we did not get to celebrate our state awards, not at all. Right. And so I was like, well, we're celebrating this. And I like went into the gym and like, what's up, everybody? Guess what? And I just like, you're gonna know. And I went up to my principal, I peeked my head in, and I said, Mr. Lubin, I just won Central District Teacher of the Year, and so I think the hard part for me was, like, in the past when I've won something, I really just like shove it down and be like, oh, it's not that big of a deal. No, this was a big deal. We're going to celebrate this. That's something that came out of the pandemic that I was like, don't shove that down. Like, that's good. Like, celebrate the things you get to celebrate. And so when we got to the general session, first of all, Shape Minnesota was trying to take a picture like 5 minutes before, and Jess and I were like, we just need to get in there. And we're like, come on, let's go. But in leading up to that, like, the adapted PE Teachers of the Year from all the other districts, like, instant best friends with me. Like, as soon as we were done with our virtual interviews, we're like, okay, we're done. Can we talk now? Like, and we just almost every day we had some kind of text on there about like what was happening in life and what we're looking forward to and what we're going to wear, sending pictures of what we're going to wear and stuff. And
I love it. I love it.
Yeah, instant best friends. And so as I'm sitting in the general session after, walking Bourbon Street with all these people and going out to eat and crawfish with my adapted PE teachers from other districts and their families, and getting to know their principals who had came with them, and getting to know all these people that were surrounded by me. I just felt surrounded by awesomeness. I just felt surrounded by people who really care about the profession the same way that I do, and really have made an impact on both kids and me professionally. And so I'm sitting in my chair, and the way that I'm coping, and I wasn't anxious all week. And that was that authenticity thing, right? I'm being myself. I can really enjoy this opportunity. But I'm sitting in my chair and I'm imagining every single girl in their chair winning, and what it's going to look like, and how I'm going to respond when they win. And I'm going through each chair and okay, when she goes up, this is how I'm going to respond. And I just kept visualizing it over and over and over. And what if I'm up there, what am I going to look like? And then going through it again and again and again. And finally Eileen announced my name, and I was like, I don't have to think about that. That's me. I get to go up there. That's me. I get to go talk at the microphone. And you all know when they said 2 minutes, I talk twice as long, because that's what happens when Jen Heebink gets a microphone in front of her face. So I just felt like I had so much to be grateful for. I was overwhelmed. I felt like my community just needed something positive after what we've been through. Because I'm from Buffalo, and we've had some stuff go on. That's a whole nother story, but I just felt overwhelmingly grateful to just be in the realm of other adapted PE legends.
You're going to be an amazing advocate for all adapted physical educators, but and your students, and also for Shape America. So thank you for everything. Guy, I'm getting some kind of interruption or some noise. Is something
there is actually. Hang on, let me just give me 10 seconds. There's someone actually trying to break into our broadcast. Let's see who it is.
Is that what it is? I kept hearing something.
That's Lisa Polson of Minnesota. Lisa, you don't need to cheer these two on anymore. I mean, they've got it covered. But Lisa, she's actually joining us on a Zag Bomb. That's only because she's returning the favor back to Kymm Ballard, who Zag Bombed her 2 weeks ago as we co-hosted a show on Play for May campaign. And Lisa is the chair of the Physical Activity Council for Shape America. And they echo actually off of what Jen was talking about in that area of mental health. Lisa, do you have a question for our Teachers of the Year?
Well, thanks for letting me drop in. It's such a good conversation so far. And the more I hear you guys talk, and any kind of good, passionate leader, teacher in our field, we all are servant leaders, right? We all want the same thing for our students, and we all give so much. And this has been such a good conversation. But we know, right, that we can only give so much before we give to ourselves too. And so what I'm wondering is, even though this group is dripping with passion for what we do, passion doesn't equal sustainability. I think we said that in our last talk. Passion doesn't equal sustainability. So I'm wondering what our 2022 Teachers of the Year do to take care of themselves. What are your best self-care advice for other teachers out in the trenches?
And Jen, we'll go ahead and start with you, considering this is obviously a topic near and dear to you in your world.
Yeah, so self-care for myself, what that looks like is journaling, getting honest ideas out on paper. I do that. I try and do it every night to get kind of some of those ideas out of my brain. I love listening to soothing music, something I can sing to, karaoke by myself when no one's listening. I love, something I learned was that you can find something that you're really bad at to do and throw away if it helps you. And so my thing is I like to use oil pastels because they're so creamy, and you can blend the colors, and I'm not an artist. You don't have to be an artist, but it's all about the art is creation, right? So just getting your thoughts out onto paper. In times when I'm really, really struggling, I love being in the water. being swimming in the pool, in the lake. I love getting away. I love going to the North Shore of Minnesota up on Lake Superior, and like the air is different up there. Like it is pine trees and fresh air, and it's separation from the cities. Going hiking, spending time with my family, reading a book outside. Those are the things I like to do.
That's really, really cool. And I know what you're talking about that smell of pine trees. Love that. So with that, staying right there in Minnesota, Jessica, what is your best advice to educators, and how do you use self-care to certainly prioritize and promote SEL?
Yeah, so I think my best advice, mental health is health, and don't wait until it's too late. I don't know how many sick days everyone has built up, but if you're not taking care of yourself and your mental health, you can't be there for your students, for your coworkers, for your admin, for your community if you're not taking care of yourself. So if you're feeling run down, if you're feeling overwhelmed, and you need a day to veg out and watch Criminal Minds like I would do, or listen to audio books about who knows what, then go ahead and do it. Because the day you come back, although the work might have piled up, hopefully you feel refreshed. And that's something I've been trying to do since the pandemic. It's just been a lot more apparent to it. So there's my advice. Mental health is health, and take time if you need it.
Absolutely. And with that, let's go to Paulo. And Paulo, what are some of the coping strategies and self-care strategies that you have adopted?
Personally, like especially like if the school shuts down and when we could not pretty much go outside and things like that, I started exercising a lot at home. I love to go to the gym. So, just the benefits, just to exercise, not just physically, but mentally, emotionally as well. So, I try to exercise on a daily basis, and that kind of really helps me, especially early in the morning. There's a lot of research that says that, if you really like make that like a to-do thing early in the morning, that kind of helps you throughout the day as well. So, that's what my advice to you. A lot of times after work, you're kind of tired. It's kind of very hard to motivate yourself to go to the gym or even to exercise. So, trying to do things like that. I spend time with the people that you love the most. I'm a person, I actually like to stay home a lot of times. I don't like to go outside as much. So I just like to stay with my wife, my kids, spend time with them. My parents, actually, they live, in a different country. So I just trying to call them on a daily basis, touch base, and also call friends of mine here and also back home too. You just have to kind of find different ways to adapt to different situations that we encounter on a daily basis. It's kind of like, what Jessica said earlier too. You're not going to be able to take care of your students if you don't take care of yourself first. So my main advice is just take care of yourself first, because you're going to be more motivated and you're going to think sharp, about your students, and you're going to be able to help them in the long run as well.
Absolutely. Great answer, Paulo. And let's now go back to Becca. Becca, what are some strategies that you use for self-care? You're muted.
I think that everything everyone has mentioned is amazing, and it's important to do those things that are solely for you as a person to rejuvenate. And then there's those things that you do as part of your work world to stay healthy and ready. And one of those that I strongly suggest is using the do not disturb features on your device, so that you don't get calls after a certain point, or you don't see those text messages until it's time when you wake up in the morning, and don't have those worries come up. I also think finding that friend at work that you can collaborate with. And so the art teacher at my school is one of my best friends, and I do so many art projects to help her and help her class, and she does the same thing for me. And just having someone to bounce ideas off of, so that you're not the one having to make that full decision. But then also those opportunities for you to say, you know what, in class right now, I need to take a deep breath. I'm feeling really frustrated, and using that as a moment to teach your kids that you need to reset. And sometimes finding the way to make the lesson simpler. Now, I think that everyone on this call really tries their best and works really hard and does the most elaborate behind the scenes, something that they can do to make their kids have the best experience because it's really for them. But then there's also those times where we say, you know what, today's lesson plan is repeating your favorite game, whatever that was, because I need that moment for me to take it easy today and for you all to steal the show and shine. And sometimes those are the best learning moments, but it's important because if I need to play the music that I like in class so that I can keep going for those 7 periods today, I rule. I'm in here for 7 periods. So I'm going to do that. And so just remembering that you are still serving those kids when you make some small selfish choices like that so that you can be there for them.
Absolutely. Great answer. I've actually heard lots of teachers actually doing that, just asking the kids what they want as what was their favorite thing. And you get to redo that, and everyone gets to have a great time. I really love all the answers. And now let's shift over to Charlie. And Charlie, what advice would you have for educators? And also, how do you prioritize your self-care as a way to promote and prioritize, SCL within your classroom?
Yeah, so I guess the advice that I would give is 2 parts. So first is feed your inner child, right? So I feel like kids are really, really good at letting you know how they feel, right? Yelling, screaming, hugging, whatever the case may be. And as we get older, for whatever reason, we start to bottle things up more, right? And I think even with coping mechanisms, like, little kids, tantrums, yelling, whatever the case may be for however it is that they're feeling, when we're younger, we gravitate really, really quickly to the things that can help us process, help us feel better. And when I was younger, like, I wasn't just a lacrosse player, but that was also my coping mechanism through a lot of what I was going through at a younger age. I remember one day as a kid, things were going on, and a cop car showed up at my house, and I'm out in the front yard just shooting a lacrosse ball and trying to escape into my own little world. So even now as an adult, if I'm stressed or if I have a lot of things going on in my mind, I connect back to my inner child, and I'll go out in the backyard. My son plays lacrosse now. We got a couple of nets. We have a pitch back, and I'll just shoot still by myself, or I'll throw the ball off the pitch back for a little while just to clear my head. And I think the other piece is, and this is more of a societal thing, right? Like stigmatizing mental health intervention. We need to normalize intervention, not only societally, but inside ourselves, right? So most people, I would say, hopefully once a year, go for a physical checkup, right? But do we go for mental health intervention even when we feel like everything's going great? Or do we wait until we feel like we're in crisis mode? And even if we feel like we're in crisis mode, do we even go for the intervention? Do we go for the therapy, the counseling, or to just unload on an unbiased professional that could give us good insight and perspective? And I feel like it's really healthy to do that for periods of time every year, even if you feel like everything's going great, because there's always a benefit to it. And we should always be prioritizing our own mental health. A strategy that I use in my personal life, maybe similar to Jen, she said she writes. I write letters to people, and I don't necessarily have to give them to them because they're not for them, they're for me, right? So I'll write letters to people that if there's conflict, maybe I'll write the letter before we have the conversation. Or I've written my kids letters before that maybe one day I'll give them, but I haven't given to them yet. I mean, one of them can't even read yet, so what would the point be? But that's a strategy that I use when I'm starting to feel a little overwhelmed.
Charlie, thank you so much for sharing that. Again, all these great ideas, certainly for self-care. And actually want to turn it over to Lisa, because Lisa had the opportunity to have a whole group of panelists just 2 weeks ago. This question was asked, and Lisa, I'll help you start the conversation, because when we had Kymm Zagbaum on that question, her answer was fantastic, and that was to simply amplify kindness in all that we do. So with that, Lisa, what other strategies that have been discussed or you guys talk about as chair of our physical activity council? What are some other things that maybe haven't been mentioned that might be, really awesome for people to hear?
So good. So good so far, Charlie. I love that you write those letters, and even though they're maybe written to somebody else, that they're actually for you. And I think I mentioned on the last call is, even though I know there's research behind pen to paper, right, and having a gratitude journal and all those things. Sorry, I haven't gotten there yet. I hope someday I do, but I keep a gratitude notes in my phone because it's accessible, and so I'm more likely to go in there and jot down 3 things that I'm grateful for, hopefully every day, but if not every day, whenever I remember, and honoring those kinds of ebbs and flows that we go through as humans. Going for a walk, making sure that we find things that we're aware of what brings us joy, and that we do those things. And so for me, maybe it's cooking, and cooking for me is like an art project, and maybe having a glass of wine and listening to music. But speaking back to Paulo's point about exercising in the morning, that's probably my number one piece of self-care, and my advice around that for folks who struggle with motivation for that is I have a 10-minute rule. And my 10-minute rule is, it's not if I'm going to move today, it's how I'm going to move today. And so if I plan to move today and I have a certain plan, I've got a 10-minute rule. So I'm going to show up, be that at home or in the gym. I'm going to show up. And if I do 4 sets of 10 squats and it's been 10 minutes and that's all I got, so yeah, I did my 10 minutes. But usually, almost all the time, your 10 minutes turns into, okay, I got this. I think I can finish this. So that's my biggest piece of advice.
Beautiful.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's awesome. So with that, so Lisa, we just want to say thank you for all that you do and what you're doing with the council. Thank you for dropping in today on the ZAG Bomb. Great question. Yeah, we can't wait to hear more of the broadcast that you guys will be doing moving forward throughout the summer and certainly heading into the fall. So thank you, Lisa, for bombing with a great question today on mental health and certainly self-care.
Thanks for having me. Honored to do so.
All right. See you, Lisa. All right. So what we're going to do now is we're going to wrap up the broadcast, and we're going to have one final question, but just keep this in mind. Kymm's going to read the final question, and within it, though, you can also include your final word. Okay. So that way, because I know each of you have something, and Jen, I just want to just make sure that you cover this, at least in your answer. I think that what's going on with the, I think it's so important that you talk about this, and that's going to be about the United PE.
The unified PE?
Yeah, the unified PE, because I think that's one of the most amazing stories that I heard that you're part of. So with that, Kymm, why don't you go ahead and kick off our very last question? And here it is.
Yeah. So what has been a defining, impactful moment of your career? And who would you like to thank for supporting you? And where are we starting with that one? I forgot.
You can start with Paulo.
Okay, Paulo.
Sure. So honestly, I think that despite all the awards that I have received lately, earning my doctoral degree back in 2014, and also my journey, back in 2004 as well, I would say that the defining impact moment for me, for myself, it's when myself and my students create a service learn project we call the Fresh Food Drive. We've been doing that for about 9 years. It's such a good project, actually, because I'm able actually to connect all my students from my whole school, also staff and teachers as well. I'm able to involve the community, family members as well. So the project actually starts in the health room. When we're talking about nutrition, I also able to bring people from outside, from food pantry to talk in my class as well. And also I'm able to connect that information to physical education, and advisory classes that we offer for all the students inside the school as well. So through this project, students learn the importance of fresh foods for their overall health. We are able to talk about food deserts, not just here in the city of St. Louis, but also in the United States. They will also talk about the leading to the negative impact the lack of access of fresh foods have, to people's body and also for their overall health. as well, and also the impact that it has in the community. So just to summarize, in about 9 years of this project that we've been doing, we have been able to collect and donate more than 30,000 pounds of fresh foods for a local food pantry. Our school actually has earned many awards locally and also statewide as well. Our students have had the opportunity, along with myself, to speak in workshops, conferences as well. And I would say, that's the most impactful for me as a servant leader that I call myself, is that, it is great to receive awards, recognitions, but I think that the cool thing about this project, and that's what kind of defines myself, is that it teaches my students lifelong skills. It's so important, such as caring, compassion, empathy as well. Increase their awareness of equity and social justice issues, in addition to help people in need. And just to follow up about people that I would like to thank, first and foremost, God, for his grace and for all the things he's done for me throughout all these years, and also, in the life of people that I know in my family as well. My wife, my kids, my family in Brazil as well, my students, their parents, they're amazing, my PE colleagues, the ones that I have worked in the past and the ones that are still work right now, Paul, Teresa, Danielle, shout out to you. Administrators from my school as well, in particular Susan Doring, who's amazing, the staff of my school, HP coordinators, the ones that I have worked in the past, for example, Ramspot, and also my current one, Eddie Matheson, my former college, Missouri Baptist University, wonderful people that I met through MoShape, Dennis, Tom, Melanie, Jennifer. Shout out to Chris and also to Guy as well, for advocating for our profession, by coming up with ideas like this, the broadcasting that we're doing tonight as well, along with you, Kymm. And the Shape America, organization. I know that I had a lot of questions through the process for the national award, and Michelle Carter and also Danielle Platt, they provided me a lot of assistance. So I'm very, very thankful for all of that.
That's so cool. Thank you so much. Charlie, you want to share?
Yeah, for sure. So I think the defining moment in my career actually happened before I started my career, if that's okay to answer it that way. So when I was doing my undergrad, I was taking a political science class, and I had a lot of things going on, right? I was playing a sport in college. I got injured, and I was, rehabbing twice a day, coursework, practice, early morning runs, lifting, and some other things that were going on in my personal life at the time. And I was trying to prioritize everything, right? And I had this paper due for my political science professor, and I rushed through it. I messed up citations. There were grammatical errors. It was a mess. It was a disaster. So I go to my next class, and everybody gets their papers back except me. So I'm walking out of the classroom, and I stop by my professor's desk, and I tell him that I didn't get my paper back. And he hands it to me, and there's a big F on top. And I said, thank you. And I went to leave, and he said, Charlie, do you know what that stands for? And I said, yeah, fail. And he said, no, it stands for what the blank is that. And I was kind of caught off guard a little bit. And he said, do you know what I look forward to most every class? And I said, no. He said, I look forward to you and this other female in my class. I look forward to your contributions because they're thoughtful and they connect to other people's contributions. And I said, thank you. And I left. 2 classes later, we had another paper due. I work really hard on it. I turn it in, and then it's time to get them back, and I don't get mine back again. And I'm about to leave, and I stop by his desk, and I say I didn't get my paper back, and he hands it to me, and there's an A on top of it. And I said, thank you, and I went to leave, and he said, Charlie, nothing less than that ever again. And I turned around, and I said, I understand, I appreciate it. And he said, I don't think you do. He said, I don't just mean in my class. I mean, ever again, anything you ever do, nothing less than that effort. And that was super impactful for me in everything that I set out to do from that moment forward. And the saddest part about that whole story is, as I've evolved in my career and I've gotten recognized in different ways and been part of a lot of different things, I've always thought to go back and connect with him and kind of let him know and share that story with him. And I forgot his name. But after getting back from New Orleans, that's one of my projects for this summer, to track him down, to find him, to connect with him, and basically thank him for instilling that in me, and for having that confidence in me, and for all honesty, doing what we all try to do for our students, not giving up on me, right? One of my favorite quotes is, I'm never going to let you drown, but we're going to swim, right? And that's what he did. He didn't let me drown, but he made sure that I swam. And in terms of just people that have impacted me along the way, like, my approach to teaching was framed by so many professors I had at Delphi: Dr. Doolittle, Dr. Manson, Dr. Rukavina, Dr. O'Hara, who I had as a principal when I first started my career, and just giving me the confidence that, yes, how I approached physical education was going to be supported in the building, and he agreed and aligned with the learning and all of that stuff, and just pushed me to continue to push my practice forward. And all the people in New York State, Allison and Colleen and Clancy and Don, and there's so many people that have just supported me, and people that I could reach out to. I also teach health, and Jess and Andy and a lot of other people that I've connected with along the way. Just they stoke the fire, and they continue to fuel you and give you confidence, and to keep going and keep pushing forward.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. Jen.
Yeah, so I would say, I mentioned unified PE. So the defining moment in my life came when I had come out of a very burnout time in my life and attended the MNDAPE conference. MNDAPE family it's incredible. So I attended this session by Nick Cedergren about this unified PE. So it's partnering with Special Olympics, and kind of what he said was that the last 50 years has been all about finding opportunities for people with intellectual disabilities to participate in sport. But now the vision for Special Olympics is that the next 50 years is going to be all about partnering people with and without disabilities together for inclusion, and having an absolute inclusion revolution across the whole nation, across the whole world. So he continued to speak about how right now we have 2 teachers at that time. This was 2016, I want to say, 2017. There were 2 teachers who were teaching a class called Unified Physical Education. Kids with and without disabilities coming together and participating in unified physical education and being in the gym together, some receiving their adapted PE services together. And I heard that, and we had already had kind of a little club about some mentors that would come in and hang out with our students with special needs. And we kind of just found like they just love being together. They would grow socially together. We'd hang out, we'd have a good time. And then all of a sudden we'd have one more person that we knew of in the hallway in the cafeteria, because back then a lot of our students did not leave their hallway except for maybe a 20-minute session of adapted PE or a 20-minute speech session. So their hallway was kind of all they knew. And so once I heard Nick speak about unified PE, I said, that's it. That's what we need. And so at that point, we had 2 teachers, like I said, piloting the program. And so I signed on to be a champion unified school, which means we would have a unified club, which now we have students with and without special needs leading together, equal opportunity, and creating the leadership opportunity, but also like planning things together, planning inclusive events together. When you think of student council, we don't have students well represented for people with disabilities or really any other club. And so that's something really special about Unified Club. And then also part of the Champion Unified School program, we have, so we have Unified Club, and we would have Unified PE or Unified Sports. And then doing a school-wide whole school engagement, like the polar plunge. So like we actually had a trailer pool, Special Olympics pool, like pulled up this trailer in the back of our school, and students could do a polar plunge. We jump into cold water and raise money for Special Olympics. 35% of that came back to our program. And so when you have all 3 of these things, what we're finding, the research is showing that you're going to have a complete culture shift in your school, or the beginning of an inclusion movement. And so at that time, once I signed up to be part of this Champion Unified School movement, teaching that first class in 2018, 2019, all of a sudden, like something really just shifted, like both in my soul and teaching students with and without disabilities. We started to see kids being asked to sit with other kids in the cafeteria instead of their own little table. We started to see kids saying hi to kids in the hallway. We started to see kids invite others out to eat and going to prom together, students with and without disabilities coming together and going to prom. Just the other day, I had a student who got to go out to eat with other 17-year-old and 18-year-olds without her mom. She turned to her mom and said, "Mom, I am 17 years old. I would like to go out with my friends. You don't have to come." Those are the things that feed my heart and feed their hearts, and everybody's teaching everybody. Our kids with special needs and who need adapted PE are thriving so much better in the phy-ed setting because they're having these relationships. And our students without special needs are coming out of this class understanding what an intellectual disability is, how to shut down the R word, what autism spectrum disorder is, how do I work with the sensory system, how can I educate and be an advocate not only for myself but for someone who has less of a voice, like a person with an intellectual disability. This social justice and advocacy, we're seeing kids come out of this program wanting to be doctors, lawyers, businessmen who will hopefully hire people with disabilities. And then our students with disabilities are more able to access the community because they feel comfortable going into the community because they're going out with their friends and going to prom and listening to music and being a part of that environment. And so the defining moment was when I decided to be brave. I'm teaching kids to be brave, and part of my why, my Northern Star, is if I'm teaching other kids to be brave, I need to be brave first. And so being brave was starting this class. And wow, the impact on my life. And I remember my admin who pulled me into her office and said, "You've had your best year ever." And I want to share this quote with you. She shared, "You often feel tired, not because you've done too much, but because you've done too little of what sparks a light in you." And that's Alexander Danhoff, I want to say. And so I want to thank Nick Cedergren in Special Olympics Minnesota. I want to thank my admin for just continuing to just trying to see my vision and my crazy things that I do, and my office mates who hear the good and the bad, and my community members, my parents that I work with who are going gung-ho with me. And we now have unified bocce ball in the community too. It's like, I'm telling you, it's an impact thing. It's a culture shift. My Mindick family, who put on amazing PD every year, and my Minshake family. I just feel really blessed to be in this profession with the people that I do. So thank you so much, guys and girls,
Jen,
and everybody.
when you go out and you present for Shape America, I want you to see if you can find just turn up the passion a little bit, like find a little more passion if you can.
I could talk for hours on this.
We love you. Jessica.
Yeah, so I think the biggest moment for me actually came from 3 years ago when I was in a situation where I had some personal things going on. My husband and I were welcoming our third child into the world, and my dad was battling pancreatic cancer. And I knew that it was going to be a year coming up. For better or for worse, we didn't really know what was going to be in store. So I took the year off from teaching and stayed home. It was not what I wanted to do professionally. I did not want my kids are watching. Hi, you guys. Mom's famous on YouTube. But I did not want to be a stay-at-home mom. And I pride myself on being a great working mom. But I made the choice for my family, and I stayed home. And because of that decision, I turned to social media to create lessons, to share lessons. If I saw someone saying, "Hey, what do you do for this?" I'd be like, "Oh, well, I have time. I'll put something together." And for me, that was really defining, because I started to build this professional network that, here's my thank you, professional network. Because I am able to bounce ideas off of people, lessons off of people, share lessons, take lessons. Thanks for letting me take, and just do that. And then with that, then I come back to teaching, and COVID hits. And that was really defining for me, because I just spent the year away because of my family. And now I'm spending the year, or not the year, well, it turned out to be more, but quite a while away now from my students and back with my family. And it was all about the people then. And I completely changed how I taught. I scrapped all of my curriculum in spring of 2020. We did mental health check-ins. We journaled. We logged our physical activity. And it was all about my students and me and making those connections. And then, then on top of it, my husband's a healthcare worker. Shout out to my husband. Thank you for everything. I decided to get my master's degree, and I got it in positive coaching and athletic leadership. And within that, all about servant leadership, all about the people, all about well-being, that these 3 defining moments have completely shifted the way I teach and the way that I view my students, my coworkers, my professional network, my admin. It's all about the people. And I think that's my biggest thing now, taking away from this. And so getting to the thank yous, I mean, my mom has been just a rock, just through everything that she's went through, and then supporting me in this journey, because it hasn't been easy, with my husband working crazy hours, with me trying to do my master's degree, which I finished in a year, while being teacher of the year. My 2020 Minnesota teacher of the years, Jen, Randy Spring. We've gone through a lot together, and the future for all 3 of us, I'm super excited for. My coworkers, my students are fantastic. One of these days, I'm going to tweet out my students' reaction to me winning. It's really funny. But yeah, I mean, it's been a ride. And so kind of my last word to those who are new in the profession, those who have been here for a while, those who are looking forward to retirement, don't forget about the people. It is the people that is the most important thing in the world.
Oh, so awesome. Thank you so much. And Becca, we're going to let you take us home.
I will totally jump on that. It is the people, and it's hard for me to identify a single defining impact other than the people that have been there along the way for me. And I graduated from an amazing program at the University of Texas with amazing professors, Tere and Dolly, and got to see their passion come to light and realize that this is the greatest profession. Like, I knew that I wanted to go into, but really I can make a difference here. But I didn't feel totally ready to be the one in charge of a whole busload of kids, like taking a field trip and looking around and saying, you're the one in charge. It was a scary look. And so I found the Polar Scholar Program at the University of Northern Iowa to continue my education and work in teaching under a master teacher of Rick Schubach, and just the community built in the Polar Scholar Program in a small little town in Grundy Center, Iowa, and the love that's shared there. And we are still connected to this day. So hearing about the people being the purpose, for Wendy and Lisa and Bob and Brett, and we were a team. And now, from all the years of the Polar Scholar Program, we get together every year at National, and it just is so powerful to be a part of such a bigger group of people you can count on. And I would say in the next journey that impacted me the most was my national board certification process, which is a process. I was told before I started, hey, this is the best professional development you'll ever do. And now that I go around and talk about it, that's what I say too, because it is about being a reflective practitioner and realizing what are those little things that you do, why do you do them, and how does that have an impact on your kids and helps you to become a better teacher. And I think that this recognition for National Teacher of the Year is just a piece in that journey of being the reflector to figure out, okay, this is why that happened, and this is what I'm going to do next because I want this to happen, and because I know this, I'm going to do this, and it shows in that growth. And so I think that has really defined where I am, where I'm headed, and where I'm going next, is just to continue to reflect and to help to share that with other people. I would say great thanks to all of my peers that I collaborate with to reflect on, because it's more fun to do it together. In APER, our Austin Association for Education and Recreation, in Tayford, in my college professors that I'm still in contact with, in my family, and my amazing husband, who is the embodiment of a PE pep talk. He is out there reminding us that we are the best and we need to encourage each other. We need to be reminded on those dark days that really this is the best job ever and we get to help kids. And the loving words that my mom will tell me when I complain about the numerous hours of grading that I have coming up, or the lesson plan that I haven't gotten ready for tomorrow and I have 50 million things to do, that really the most important thing is to love on those kids.
Wow. Pretty impressive, Guy.
I'm speechless, and I just want to thank each and every one of you for your just contributions tonight, letting all of us, including everyone that's watching around the country, hear your stories, hear your backstories, and hear the impact that you're having, as well as the people who have locked arms with you along the way, and more people that will lock arms with you along your journey as you continue to love on kids, as we continue to love on kids. And so with that, it's going to bring us to the very final word, and it couldn't be any more fitting than to have Shape America President Kymm Ballard. And Kymm, for convenience sake, I've actually typed it in so everyone could actually see it as you let everyone know your final word. So I'll bring it up on the screen now.
Wait just a second, because I'm going to say, first of all, just share some of the things I want to remind you that I heard before I say that piece is, loving on those kids, prioritizing gratefulness, thankfulness, servant leader, taking care of you, supporting your why, taking a chance, doing the little things like reflecting, and what brings you joy. All of those things you guys talked about, and they're so important. So I wanted to just remind you okay, Guy, before we got off, that life itself can't bring you joy unless you really will it. Life brings you time and space. It's up to you to fill it. So use it wisely. Yes, we want you to be servant leaders, but yes, we got to have you take care of you before you can give to others. So be sure you fill you up, right? Before we can give to other people too. So go out, do good things. You all are awesome. Can't wait to see what happens next.
Absolutely. Thank you all. And certainly thank you all for watching all around our great country. Thank you also for those that have been contributing, certainly in the comments. We appreciate all the love you shared throughout the broadcast. And we can't wait to see you next time on our next broadcast. Thank you all to our 2022 National Teachers of the Year. God bless.
Good luck. Love you.